Hi, this is Angela Alexander. Hope all is well with you today. I had a couple of things on my mind I just wanted to share with you. One in particular was last night before I went to sleep, I heard the word very clearly, look up Metron. And I've heard teachings about Metron before, but I never heard it before I went to sleep. And so what a Metron is a place of your authority. Like, where do you have natural or spiritual authority? So, natural authority might be your job, with your family. Spiritual authority might be at your church or just people you pray for, a place where you live. And so I just thought it was interesting. So I listened to a couple of videos this morning, and one in particular, this lady was talking about how we can get so accustomed to things not going well that we don't use the authority that we have. And she gave the example of like an elephant. So, an elephant, someone has trained an elephant. You've got this little chain and this little tree, but because the trainer of the elephant has told him or showed him even from birth that this is where your limitation is, it does not know its own strength. It has the strength to pull away and break the chain, but because it's been trained that it has a limitation. But when you are a son or daughter of the King of Kings, I'm a follower of Jesus, so I talk about the King of Kings. That's who I follow. We have authority that is given to us because of the spirit of adoption, because he has engrafted us into his family. So if you've ever been adopted, you know what that is. When you take on someone else's name, like if you're married, you take on the name of someone, and so you are engrafted into that family, right? And so as such, you have an authority that comes to you because of who you are, who you belong to, who you are engrafted into. And so, as such, like my son gives me the example all the time. And it's so interesting because the Bible tells us to be like little children. He doesn't shy away from, I want something. As a matter of fact, it's interesting because a lot of times when I talk to parents, and which that's what I do, Speed Parent Guide, shout out to that. Parents say, my kids are entitled. And I think about that. That word really strikes me that they are entitled. And man, we are. And the Bible tells us to be like little children. Like my son doesn't have a problem with asking, my sons, but my younger one in particular. And so this is just a little note for parents. Like sometimes he'll ask for something and I may not have the means or it may not be the time for him to have a certain thing. And so my latest tip with him is put it on the list, right? And so he's been thinking about this list. Like, how does this list work? One thing in particular, he just had a birthday and he wanted a phone. And he had been asking for over a year for this phone. Just had a birthday last month, as a matter of fact. It's not even a full month from his birthday. And the answer to this initially was no, right? And he kept on. And then he gave reason why this was something that he should have, right? And it wasn't a nag, but knowing the temperament of his parents, he would come back and he would keep broaching it and keep broaching it. He got the phone. And not even a month later, yesterday, he sent me a picture of something else he wanted. And it is not in my budget right now. And I said, okay, well, send me a picture of it. And do you know that I am thinking about how he can get this thing that he's asked for? How much more does the Lord, right? I have parents who come to me and they say, I just don't know what else to do. I am at my wit's end with this situation. I don't know what else to do. And God has given us his word. The Bible tells us to be wise as a serpent, yet innocent or harmless as a dove. And this thought came to me this morning about the wisdom of a serpent. Like, how wise is a serpent? I don't know. And so there are some things, some wisdom that has to come directly from the Lord. Because how wise is a serpent? Like, how do I know what a serpent's wisdom is? And it's interesting that it uses serpent, and serpent is what confused Eve, what tricked up Eve. And it made me wonder if the serpent had been using wisdom with Eve all along. That perhaps the serpent had been saying things to her, and maybe even things to Adam here and there. And so they didn't know to mistrust the nature of the serpent. And it was one day that the serpent mentioned the fruit in the tree. And she had the word in her. She knew what to do. She knew what the word said. She had Metron. She had authority in this garden because God had put her and Adam in the garden. Adam in the garden to rule over the garden. She was his helper. So she had Metron. She had authority here. The enemy could not take her authority, but he could question what she knew. He could question the word that she knew in her own home, in her own sphere of Metron, just as he does with you. A lot of us know the word. We can use the word when we are at church and you're clapping and you're amening, but when you're at home in your sphere of influence, we forget the word that we know as if it does not work there. When we're believing for something, whether it's the next home or the building or whatever that next thing for us is, we know how to preach the message, but not apply it to the area of our belief. The Lord says to put him in remembrance of his word. That word that we have is a key. It is what my son uses. It is, I am reminding you of what you said. And so even in the areas that I'm believing for, even in terms of my Speak Parent Guide, the huddles and the families coming in, that is a sphere of influence for me. God has given me an authority here. And so I can speak that word because he has given me an authority here. And so there are areas where God has given you authority. Find it in the word and put God in remembrance of it. And so one of the things that I got today is, may God give you the tongue of the wise for those you are called to influence. May God give you the tongue of the wise for those you are called to influence, even if you are in an unideal is the word that I got, unideal situation, like Daniel. Daniel and his friends were actually taken into captivity. So not many of us are in captive situations, but we are in situations that seem to consume us. They're in our minds, they're captivating our minds day and night. Lord, what do? I don't know what else to do. I don't know what else to do. So I'm saying to you, apply the word. May God give you the tongue of wisdom for those you need to influence. If it's your children, God, give me influence and give me favor with them. So even in Daniel's case, they came looking for him. So I even pray that over myself as I pray for you, that those that you have influence over, that they even come looking for you because you have what they need. For Daniel, they knew that he had the ability to interpret dreams. And at the set time, a person of influence came to him and said, hey, I heard that you have a gift. This is this is the dream. You need to interpret that dream. And God gave him the wisdom to do it. Nobody else could do it. So it doesn't matter how many people have the same quote unquote giftings or similar giftings as you. There is a uniqueness for what God has given you, that the ear for those that you are called to speak to will hear it. That you are uniquely equipped and designed to solve a problem. In Nebuchadnezzar's case, he was the one who had the dream. God gave Daniel prayed, and God gave him the wisdom to be able to say exactly what this dream was and what it meant. And then that shifted him. That shifted one level of Metron into another sphere. It put him as a ruler, you know, And that rulership went on to his friends. So those who are connected to you benefit from you walking in your sphere, walking in what God has given you. So I also heard a person say, language is a gate of trust. So in my sphere, when I talk about communications, I wrote a book, Speak a Parent's Guide to Better Communication, right? And so communication is not just the words that come out of your mouth, but your body language, your words, your look, what you're saying. You know how there are times where you can get a look from somebody, and like when you're growing up, your parents may have given you a certain look, and you knew to straighten up. You can look at your husband, and there are certain times that there are jokes or certain things that you hear, and you know there's a language that you and I have because of connection, because of relationship. She says communication or language is a gateway of trust. So can I trust your language? Can I trust the words that are coming out of you? The Bible tells us again to be wise as a serpent. So Lord, give us the wisdom that we need, unscrupulous wisdom that we need in certain areas, that we can be trusted, that we can have strategies, tactics when we need it to influence those we need to influence. And so that is what I have today. So some wisdom, again, literally comes from the throne of God. But he's asking us, he's telling us to ask him for it. The enemy knows the word, and he cannot take what is yours, but he can cause you to forfeit it, just like he caused Adam and Eve to forfeit their own home. Knowing the word, they forfeited because they didn't stand on what they knew. So I'm encouraging us not to be tripped up by the serpents, by things that are, the enemy doesn't fight fair. We don't fight with natural tools. If you are a follower of Christ, the weapons of our warfare are not carnal. They're not physical weapons. And so a lot of times we want to use our mouth to fight, but you better use the word that God has given you to fight your battles. You don't use a sword. You don't use cursing. You don't use, threats. Those are not our weapons. And so if you are trying to use those things to influence the people in your life, like your children, to do what you want them to do, it's not going to go well. If you're trying to use, excuse me, if you're trying to use threats or your own intellect to influence the decisions that you have to make next, to influence contracts, to influence neighbors and contractors, is not going to work. You have to go back to the word. Find what you need in the word. There's 66 books of it. Do a search for it if you don't know where to find it. Pray that word and say, God, your word said, and stick with that and keep declaring it until you see it established. I'm Angela Alexander, and I just had that on my heart today. I hope it blessed you. I'm going to go back and listen to this myself because this was something that was for me that I felt inclined to share with you. Blessings to you, and do have a great day.